LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I
filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though. I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How We're The podcast, and we continue our build-up to the trip up the road on Sunday. And today we speak to someone who not only came second in our top 10 fullbacks of the Stadium of Light era podcast that we recorded in the summer, but he also has first-hand knowledge of what it's like to go to St James's Park and get a result in a red and white strip. He's an honorary Mackem from Argentina who made 177 appearances for Sunderland and scored 39 goals in the process, which of course means we're very pleased to welcome Julio Arca. Welcome, Julio.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? How's it going?
Yes, all good, thank you.
Good stuff. What have you been up to lately? You still able to keep one eye on the lads?
Yes, I was there on Saturday, watching the game. I took one of my sons there. Sadly, obviously, the result wasn't great, but it was good to be back at the Stadium of Light, seeing so many people, so many familiar faces again.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we speak to a few ex-players along the way, and it seems like from the outside, from listening to people, that actually it's something that the club are trying to do to get ex-players to go along and get involved in certain areas of the club.
Yes, I believe, if I'm not wrong, it's a couple ex-footballers. Some of them been there for a while, like Jimmy Montgomery and Dickie Malone and a couple others from the 70s. And I believe Darren Williams, I think he's working in one of the suites in there, and I'm not sure if he's anywhere else working alongside him. But it's good to see, obviously, ex-footballers being involved, especially when you've been part of that club,
Yeah. When you go back, does it just feel like kind of coming home in some ways? Do you feel like, this is kind of my stadium?
Yes, you always feel welcome when I go there. But I used to go more often last season when they were in the championship. This season I haven't been many times, but to be honest, on Saturday it reminded me when I first joined Sunderland, in 2000, when the stadium was full more or less every other week. And it was loud and it was noisy and it was hard to find a parking space and it was full of people everywhere. So it's good to see that happening again in Sunderland. It's good to see so many fans turning up to support the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was all because of that promotion last year, of course. And,
yes.
Going back earlier, you were, of course, involved in getting us promoted as champions under Mick McCarthy. But I bet you wouldn't have minded being involved in the drama against Coventry at Wembley last season.
I know, that would have been good, yeah. Sadly, I could not make it to Wembley, but we watched the game and it was entertaining for everyone, especially for neutral fans to watch a game, especially what happened at the end, scoring the 2 goals in the last 20 minutes, bringing Sunderland back in the Premiership. it was great. I think, after so many years, Sunderland deserved to get back in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. We deserve it through the pain that we've gone through, of course, over the years. But just going back to that promotion, Julio, and I'm just kind of trying to put you in that place of, I remember, all the players on the pitch, and, Mick McCarthy had brought some fantastic young players in that side. You had yourself, Stephen Elliott, Liam Lawrence, Dean White, all of those sort of players. Now, just imagine if you put yourself back in that position, and Mick McCarthy then spent 150 million in the summer and brought in a whole bunch of new players, and most of those players didn't get a chance. I mean, how do you think that would have gone down then? I mean, can you see the positions that the club were trying to put themselves in, and the position that the players were in this summer?
Well, first of all, it's great to see the club, spending a lot of money in the right way. Of course, they had to invest to maintain the club in the Premier League, and that's sadly what you have to do now. Teams that don't invest much, I'm afraid they got big chances to go down. Obviously, Sunderland, they decide to invest a lot of money in the team, and I believe it's paying off because, I don't want to say Sunderland is safe, but you more or less achieve the points that they were looking for. And also, competing against the best teams in the league and some of the best teams in Europe, so that tell you that obviously when you invest in the right way, things will pay off. Now, my question is, where Sunderland want to go? Do they really want to invest more money and trying to, keep climbing up the table, or they want to be a team where they're happy just to achieve 45 points every season and should stay in the league? So I guess in the summer we'll see what the chairman and obviously people working alongside him try to do.
Yeah, well, actually, going back, you were in a fairly similar position when you first joined, and when Peter Reid was the manager that second year in the Premier League. And, looking at Sunderland this season, Sunderland lost just 4 of the first 20 Premier League games this season. And I'm not sure anyone really expected that. And if you go back to that first season you were at the club, you go back to that first Christmas and we were riding high, in the Premier League. And then it tailed off in the second half of the season, which it's kind of done this season without that expectation. I mean, is it, how difficult is it for players to keep their feet on the ground when everyone else is kind of dreaming of bigger things when things are going really well like that?
Well, I mean, Sunderland fans obviously always get exciting when good things happen. They only need a little bit to get exciting, and what it's like. Everyone should stand up and start supporting the team. Obviously, the more you give back to them, the more you're going to get from them. And that's the Northeast, I think, the fans up here are very supportive to the team. I think, the players they managed to sign last summer, it was, some good names, experienced players. They combine young players with experienced players, and it worked really well. I still think that they might need probably 2 or 3 more players just to be more effective, especially going forward. But that's obviously something that the club going to have to look in the summer. But I think the foundation is done now. Probably happened when I first came to Sunderland. I came to Sunderland when the foundation was done. The team, the season before I arrived, finished 7th. When I played my first season, we finished 7th. And then the money the club have probably didn't spend as much as the fans wanted or some of the players wanted. And that's how things start collapsing. And then we ended up getting relegated a couple of years after. So hopefully that's not the case this time. Hopefully the case is like, okay, we have the foundations on now. Can we progress? Can we get better players? Can we obviously, I'm sure they're going to sell some players because some players done really well this season. And that's football, that's business. If someone come and pay 50 million for someone, you pay 5 or 6, then you're going to have to sell it, don't you? But hopefully they can reuse that money in the right way and make the team even a little bit more stronger than this season.
Yeah. I mean, that was really interesting, Julio, because you were basically saying that, when a club gets into that position, the players are almost looking around thinking, what's next? And
Yeah.
is it a signal of what type of player come in next? As you know, does that kind of communicate to the players where the club wants to go?
Well, I mean, the players themselves, when they see, okay, we can compete against, Manchester United, Manchester Cities, but we were short shoes on this, on that. The players can see that, and then they start talking to each other. I'm sure the manager will have conversation with the players. I think managers are more flexible now. It's not the way they should want. They talk with the players because they have to work as a group. And the better the team do, the more beneficial for the manager and more beneficial for the club. So it's like a family, a community, that they have to like pull all them together. So I'm sure the players know that obviously this season been good. They haven't finished now. They still got 9 games left. I'm sure they're looking like to achieve more points and finish, with as many points as they can. And obviously this weekend, as you know, is a big one. It's not 3 points, it's probably 6 points because the players, I believe, even the new players, after playing the last derby, they know how much this game mean for the fans.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that magical 40-point mark, and as you said, Sunderland achieved that with 9 games to go. And you, again, putting you back in that position, in that mindset you were in, that the club were, going great guns at Christmas, and it's almost then it's kind of target achieved when you're already up there. I mean, as a player, is it difficult to get to a specific target or a target just to stay up or be in mid-table or whatever it is, and then you reach that with games to go and you need to reset and go again?
Well, to be honest, personally, I've never been in a team where the manager say to us, we need to achieve 40 points and then relax. Normally it was, we need to finish as high as we can. Obviously, realistically, you know that Sunderland is not going to win the league now, but can we finish top 10? Can we finish top 12? Just give you more or less an idea where the club wants to go. Then obviously, if you achieve the 40 points like they did, with 10 games or 9 games in hand, fantastically, can we keep pushing? And I think, if Sunderland can finish in the top 12 or in the top 10 this season, it's a fantastic achievement.
Yeah, well, you talked about managers saying relax. I can't imagine Peter Reid saying, right, we've done it, now relax for the rest of the season. I'm sure he never did anything like that, did he?
No, definitely no. And I think the players won't relax either because, you want to win every game. I know players will have good performance and bad performance, but when they have bad performance, doesn't mean, no, we relax now. We don't care anymore about this season. No, they keep pushing, they keep working hard. I'm sure everything they do now till the end of the season will be the same, that whatever they done from the beginning of the season up to now, nothing changed. And they know how important this season is for the club. Regardless if you get 40 points, 50 points or 55, they know the impression this team will make this season is important. And up to now, they've done really, really well. But the last thing you want to do is just finish the season weak. Ideally, you want to finish the season the same way you started the season.
Yeah. Well, just on that, going back to that, your first season at the club, because looking at where we were in late January, we were second in the league in late January, and obviously tailed off to finish 7th. And I'll just point out that you mentioned you did the Europe word first before I did, by the way, Julio. I'll just point that out, just in case people think I'm a fan and getting carried away. But that season, of course, when we were second in late January, you talk about not relaxing, but how hard is it when you lose that momentum? Because it looks like Regis Labrissa's side have lost that momentum in the same way maybe you did way back then.
Yeah, I mean, everything going to have ups and downs during the season. You're going to have months or weeks where the team is playing really well and you got every player available and fit. And then you're going to have weeks where you have injury play, you have to change the system around. You might be missing play for weeks, like it happened with Xhaka, So things like that gonna happen during the season, and you have to be prepared. That's why you don't need a squad of 11 players. You need a squad of 20 players or 25 sometimes, because you have obviously not one competition to play. You have 2 or 3 different competitions to play. But ideally, as I say, I repeat myself, you want to finish as high as you can. Talking about that season when we were second in the league, we knew how hard, obviously, it was going to be to maintain us top 3 in the league. But we saw, okay, we're second in the league in December. We can achieve top 6 in here. Yes, definitely. We could beat anyone playing at home at that time, Anyone was beatable. I mean, I remember beating Chelsea 4-1 away and beating Manchester United in a cup game at home. So, but saying that, something obviously things change in a team. I don't know if the momentum, but obviously when you're losing key players in the team could be affected. But as I said before, hopefully the team finish as high as it can. Can they still finish top 10? I think they can. Europe, yeah, it will be harder, not impossible. But look, top 10, I think is a great achievement for the first season. Obviously, if you finish top 10 this season, guess what? The fans will want more next season. So, but that's life, When you achieve, when you bring your bar high one season, then the next season they want to see even higher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just we talked about the league there, but just quickly on the cup exit at Port Vale, of course, we were one step away from the quarterfinal. You were actually knocked out at the same stage twice as a Sunderland player.
Yeah.
And you're also part of the side that were, of course, beaten by Millwall at Old Trafford in the semi-final. I mean, is that something that's hard to recover from when you get knocked out, when you almost get a taste of those later stages and you almost start dreaming and then you get knocked out? Is that something you've got to really recover from?
Yeah, I think the further you go in this kind of competition, obviously, the harder it is to accept it when you get beat. We have a good run in that competition, obviously that season. And when we got Millwall in the semi-final, we saw, yes, we can definitely achieve the final. Not being arrogant, but we were doing well in the league. So we could feel that we could win them. But again, I can't remember exactly what happened with the goal, but I think it was a mistake from 2 defenders, and they score a goal, and then we try everything we could to obviously equalize, and that didn't happen. And sadly, obviously, we missed that chance. But it's not easy to achieve a semi-final. It's not easy to achieve a quarter-final in the FA Cup competition because you're playing against good teams. And sometimes when you think, oh, we got an easy game, like it happened, obviously, with Port Vale, you think, we go in there, we should win 3-4-0. That's probably the worst games to play against because the pitch is never great. The players you play against will play not 100%, they will play 1,000% because they want to show they're better than you. So it is hard in games, and it happened to me. I remember once we got beat against Brentford away. I can't remember if it was the Carling Cup or the FA Cup. And Brentford was, I think it was 1 or 2 leagues below us. We went there thinking, okay, it won't be comfortable, but we should win. And we ended up getting beat 2 or 3-0 or 3-1. DJ Campbell, I don't know if you remember him, scored 2 goals and then he got moved to Birmingham after that, I believe. So yeah, games like that are hard, especially when you try to play the same way that you play in the Premier League. Obviously in the Premier League, you got bad pitches, you can play more from the back. Then you go to these places where you cannot play from the back because the pitch obviously doesn't help. You have to be more direct. So yes, obviously disappointing for them, but they have to concentrate on the league now.
Yeah. Okay. I think you played on some better pitches in non-league than you did at Port Vale, to be honest. But yeah, anyway, but before we get into the derby at the weekend, I think it's time for a quick break. So we'll be back in a minute.
Did you know only 6% of people are getting enough fiber? That's why Quaker created Fiber February, a month-long movement to show your gut a little more love. It's like dry January, only easier and more delicious. Quaker has over 100 delicious options that are a good source of fiber. So go buy Quaker Oats today and join the Fiber February movement for a healthy gut.
I have created the most advanced AI soldier.
The wait is over. Tron Ares now streaming on Disney+.
We are looking for something you've discovered. And some of us will stop at nothing to get it.
Ready? The countdown is complete.
There's no going back.
Our directive is clear.
Hang on!
Tron Ares, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
And welcome back to How We're the Podcast. And we'll just get into the modern day now and, of course, get into the game on Sunday. But just, Julio, in terms of this season, I just want to ask a question in general because about Sunderland, maybe in the football we're playing, but the Premier League in general, because being the type of player you were, very technical, very skillful, how have you found watching the Premier League this season? Because it seems to have gone a little bit old school with kind of long balls into the box, long throw-ins, goals from set pieces. It seems to be moving away from maybe that Pep technical style, isn't it?
Yes, some teams are gone back probably few years ago. Depending on, like you say, long throws, set pieces, where some other teams are still trying to obviously play from the back and play probably the Pep Guardiola style, if you want to call it that way. I think, ideally, you have to be available to mix it up. Funny enough, we were talking about Port Vale before, and sometimes you have to be available to mix it up because it's hard to play the same style all the time. And obviously, teams start reading the way you play and start knowing how to play. So the second time you play, then they think, okay, that's what they do. And obviously, with all the sport analysts and all the people working in clubs now, they can analyze every aspect of every team. So yes, it's if you ask me, I'd rather go back 25 years ago and watch the Premier League 25 years ago when it was more physical. We have technical players, very good technical players. We also have the game will carry on, and we didn't have all this technology going on where the game will stop 5, 6, 10 minutes to make a decision. So I'm more like old style, and I think if you ask the fans, I think the fans will agree with that. The majority of them, at least, we like to see, football just let carry on, let playing. You don't see many players now as well, like going past 3 or 4 players. Everything is like very tactical, and you have to do this, and you have to pass the ball here. And after you pass the ball, you have to move here. Where players don't seem to have that freedom now, like we used to before, to say, get the ball down the left and just trying to go past players, put the ball in the cross. I don't think the players have that freedom. I might be wrong, but obviously that's what I see on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. You're preaching the converted here, by the way, Julio. Get 2 up top for me and get the ball into the box. But anyway, people might say I'm a dinosaur for saying that. But talking about people being tactical, of course, Regis Labris, the way he's done what he's done, of course, first season, last season, got Sunderland promoted, and he's masterminding some fantastic results this season in terms of how he's set us up, being very defensive and getting the big moments right. But, taking all that into account, there's still some people questioning Regis Labris and how he's done it. How do you sum up the job he's done at Sunderland?
I think obviously results told for themselves, regardless how you play, the main thing is to win games. Obviously, since he arrived in the club, when you look at the full picture, he's done well, obviously achieved promotion. If you want to go in details and trying to find obviously positives and negatives, I agree with probably what some of the fans are saying. I think, sometimes the team seems to be too deep. And obviously they defend him well and it's good, but how long can you defend for? And then what happens if you concede? How can you change that? So saying that, obviously, they managed to gain some great results playing that system. But, personally, I would like to see sometimes a more offensive team than defensive, But look, every manager have a different philosophy. Every manager have a different tactics. I'm not saying what's right or wrong. Everyone have personal opinions and, or like different styles.
Yeah. Just out of interest, do you think you'd enjoy playing down the left-hand side in this Sunderland team? Or is it a bit too restrictive?
No, I think, I definitely will enjoy it again. I wish I could play again. I wish I could put my boot for 20 minutes. But I think things change now. Things change. The football now is different than before. But yeah, I will like to play under this manager because it's different manager from a different country. I like to know different people, different styles. So obviously, once you're there, you might like it, you might not. But I'm a person that obviously I like to try different styles.
Yeah. Well, look, let's move to the derby because you, as we said, joined the club in the summer of 2000. How quickly, from signing on that dotted line, was it made clear to you just how big the rivalry was between Sunderland and Newcastle?
Well, if you have to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't know much about the derby when I first arrived. Obviously, I knew that Middlesbrough and Newcastle were close to Sunderland, and I was told obviously that were the derbies. But I didn't know how much it meant to the fans when we first played Newcastle. I think the first game was at home, if I'm not wrong. My second derby. The first derby was away. We played Newcastle in St. James's Park and we won 2-1.
Yeah.
And I remember obviously seeing the players extremely happy. Everyone was so happy. And the fans as well, But at that time, I didn't know how much it meant. Where the second time when we play against them at home and we drew 1-1, that Patrick Carteron scored that goal, I knew how much it meant because just coming out the tunnel before the game and seeing so many people with just basically red and white paper all around the stadium, I saw, wow, when you get goosebumps and you think, wow, that motivate. How can you not get motivated to play this kind of games? If you need to tackle someone with your head, you tackle someone with your head. It's just like that kind of feeling you get. The fans screaming and shouting. It was great. That first derby at home, I really, really enjoyed that game. Probably one of the best games I play, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was looking, of course, you mentioned the one at St. James's. That was only about 2 months after you made your debut against West Ham, which is crazy. But I think, looking back, I think you got picked up an injury against Spurs a couple of weeks before, and you ended up on the bench for the game at St. James's. And then, of course, Sunderland were a goal down. Gary Speed got that goal.
Yeah.
Then in the 66th minute, you came on for Chris Macon. Then a minute later, Don Hutchison equalises.
Yeah.
Less than 10 minutes after that, Niall Quinn puts us ahead. And then 5 minutes after that, Sorensen saves Shearer's penalty. So that was some 20 minutes, wasn't it, after you came on from the bench?
Quite entertaining. But I remember being disappointed that game because I wanted to play. Yeah. But at the same time, obviously, I was coming back from an injury, so obviously Peter Reid saw it was best to play someone else. But yeah, I was glad. Obviously, came on, turned the game around, and then yes, like you say, obviously in the end, Queenie obviously done the foul inside the box for them to have a penalty, and they saw, okay, well, but you expecting obviously Shearer to score, especially being at home, and then he missed. Tommy Sorensen make a great save, so that probably make it even better.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you changed the game coming on from the bench, but can you remember what? Because you're coming on with Sunderland losing a derby, and there's 20 odd minutes to go. And can you remember what is Peter Reid telling you? Is he saying, go on, change the game for us, or what's he saying to you?
No, I cannot remember him saying that, but because my English at that time wasn't great. Yeah, to be honest with you. So I have one of the coaches used to be Adrian Hilf. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
So he used to be the one that could speak a little Spanish and he used to translate for me. But now, basically, what I was saying is just like, trying to obviously get down the line, crosses on the box, obviously work hard, make sure obviously we look after the ball, and then I have the freedom to do, whatever I wanted, obviously, with certain limits, but obviously never try to do something silly while you're trying to make someone in your box, make some in your box. But no, I have the freedom with Peter Reid, and that's why I enjoy that, because he never really give me much information, and the understanding with Michael Gray was good as well. Even though that we could not communicate to each other, but football-wise, we could understand each other, and that was great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just on that one, that game, because we spoke with Emerson Thome a while back, and he mentioned, of course, kind of celebrating that one, and maybe a couple of other incidents in Newcastle around that time, because I think you were sharing lifts and things like that. But yeah, how was that one celebrated when you beat Newcastle? Because obviously coming from behind and everything, and you were just kind of coming into the club and being introduced to everyone, really.
Well, to be honest, I remember, as I say, I didn't know how much that means. So I remember just playing that game. I don't know if at that time I was living in Newcastle or I was living in Durham. But I basically just after the game went home, because I didn't know. It was hard for me to communicate with the lads, going out with lads and they all speaking a different language than me. I couldn't understand anything. And on top of that, I didn't know how much that game means. But I remember then on Monday saying wow, fantastic weekend we have. So I'm sure they have a good time.
Yeah. Especially with the likes of Mickey Gray and Alex Ray in there, who English is, not even their third language, to be honest. But yeah, just about this game being 12 o'clock kickoff. Did the kickoff time ever affect you as a player? I mean, did you have a preference?
Ideally, for me, if you could play early or 3 o'clock afternoon, that's probably ideally. Because sometimes when you play nighttime, you feel like you have to wait all day to go and play the game, and sometimes you feel like it's too long. And by the time you get nighttime, you feel tired. That was me. So the early you play, I think is better, and I think it's probably better for the fans as well. To go and watch a game early on, where after the game, obviously, if you win, you got plenty of time to celebrate. If you get beat, you could go home early, and I'm sure your wife won't give you any hassle.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just my memories of playing at St James's around that time were always seem to be at night, but they never are now. Just one last one in terms of memories of playing against Newcastle and yourself. I mean, do you get reminded very often that you were the last player to tackle Alan Shearer?
Not really. Once in a while, when I probably do a dinner talk or something like that, always is a Sunderland fan remind me that, and I always try to clarify what happened. But I guess I still get the blame for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sunderland fans think of it a lot differently to you at that point. But yeah, I mean, just again in the build up to this, do most players look forward to big games like this, or did you see players who you played with who you could see almost visibly shrink when there's a big game like this coming up?
No, I think the players by now, obviously, all the new players know how much this game means. But again, you have to take it as another game, because it's another 3 points. You don't get 6 points for winning. You get 3, but it's important, obviously, winning the derbies. I think, after what happened, obviously, at the Stadium of Light, the 1-0, obviously, Newcastle fans and Newcastle players will be prepared to take a revenge on that. So, if you think about it, probably the pressure is more in Newcastle than Sunderland playing at home. It's typical when you play at home, obviously you have all the fans on your side and you're expecting to obviously put a good performance and win. But we'll see. Obviously they play the other night. I'm not sure who's going to be fit, who's not going to be fit. I don't know how the players, obviously legs will be Newcastle players after that big game against Barcelona. And then obviously talking about Sunderland, they know they have to do a lot better than Brighton, because if the performance is the same, then could be a long day.
Yeah. Well, you were of course in the dressing room as a player, and also you could maybe put your ex-manager's hat on for this one as well, because going back to those games where Peter Reid was probably trying to get you up for it and trying to rev you up for it because it was a derby. You've just said there, well, at the end of the day, that there's 3 points. Is it a tough one for managers? It's a bit of a tightrope for them to go along, where they don't want to get the players so revved up that they go and do something stupid in the first 5 minutes, but they need to know that it's a little bit more than a normal 3 points in the Premier League game.
I believe the managers take every game seriously. I don't think they never relax, regardless if you play against a championship team or a League One team or a Premier League team like Manchester United, Manchester City, or a derby game, or one of the teams sitting in the bottom of the league. Anything can happen in the game. I think they have to prepare well. Obviously, they have to concentrate 100%, because any mistake will cost. And obviously, they have to be prepared in front of, so many thousand fans in Newcastle that they're going to make you feel that you're playing away, and they're desperate to obviously overturn what happened last game at the Stadium of Light. So, all these factors could influence, but I think the players should be prepared enough, because the majority of them play around Europe before, and I'm sure they play big derbies before, so I don't think that could affect them. Well, I hope not.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned obviously Newcastle getting thumped. Well, I don't think you mentioned the score, but I will. They got thumped 7-2 in midweek at Barcelona. And like you said, Sunderland didn't really perform all that well against Brighton. I mean, should we take any of this into account, or when it comes to a game like a derby, Sunderland-Newcastle, does all of the previous form just go out of the window?
Well, to be honest, if you look at Newcastle, yes, they lost 7-2, but the first half they done really well. They done really well. And the first game against Barcelona, they done really well. They were unlucky just to concede a goal right in the end. So, yes, 7-2 obviously doesn't look good, but I don't think, apart from the second 45 minutes, I think they played very well. The match against one of the best teams in Europe. So, obviously disappointed to get obviously knocked out on Newcastle side, but they have to forget about it. The important thing for them is to win on Sunday, and for Sunderland fans as well. For Sunderland fans or for Sunderland players is, can we get a point? Can we get 3 points? Can we gain added points in the league? So I think whatever happened, in the last few days or last weekend, it should go out the window now. They have to concentrate on what's coming.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to ask for a prediction for these games, because, of course, anything can happen. But, looking at the two teams, how do you see it playing out? Do you see it, Newcastle kind of just piling on the pressure and Sunderland having to wait for their chance? Or do you think it might be a bit more of an open game?
No, I can see Newcastle pressing Sunderland very high, if I have to be honest with you. I see them doing against Barcelona. So if they can do that against Barcelona, that they are a fantastic football team, especially play from the back. They can do that against any team in the Premier League. So, especially playing at home, I can see them pressing high. I can see trying to put a low pressure in Sunderland, especially the first half, and obviously see what happens. Obviously Sunderland can manage to break that first pressure. Then they might think, okay, well, this is not working, we might need to change it, but I can see Newcastle going 100% pressure on them and try to obviously get a result. And then Sunderland, I'm not sure if Sunderland wanna play the same style they've been playing, trying to sit deep, or trying to be more offensive. I'm not sure, what players are gonna be available for the game as well, because I know Sunderland obviously got a couple of injury players. So I'm not really sure, what the system will be and who's gonna play.
Yeah. Well, putting your manager's hat on for a second, Julio, how would you approach the game if you were Regis Labris? Would you Would you want Sunderland to get out a bit more, or would you want to just, keep your line and, defend deep?
Well, ideally, as a fan, I'm talking as a fan, no, because I'm a fan now. I would like to see a team, obviously, not sitting too deep, because it will be hard to overturn a game if if you're sitting too deep and you might concede a goal or two in the first half. Then just to turn it around will be extremely hard. But we'll see. I mean, the manager, I believe, will stick with what he knows best. And if he thinks it's best for the team just to sit back and counter-attack with pace, then he will do that. Again, I cannot predict how that's going to work or no. But we'll see. As a fan point of view, I'll be watching again. Will be exciting to see what happens.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you. I assume you're planning on watching it. Are you getting out and about watching it, or staying home watching it properly?
I will probably stay at home because you know what it's like going out on these kind of days. Especially if you go to a pub where you go like Newcastle and Sunderland fans. Sometimes it doesn't end too well. So I'd rather be at home, chilling with a cup of coffee and watching in a relaxing way.
Yeah, it's times like these sometimes that I'm glad I live on the edge of the Pennines and out of it all sometimes. But
I'm too old. I'm getting old. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. But no. Well, on that point, I hope you have a cracking weekend, Julio. I hope you enjoy the game, and I hope you're happy as the rest of us afterwards. And it just leaves me to say thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem. Thanks very much for your time, and let's wish Sunderland the best for the weekend.
Yeah, the nerves are already kicking in, Julio. I can assure you of that. But thanks again, everyone, for listening. Don't forget, we've got loads more stuff building up to the game on Sunday on the Roker Report website. And we'll, of course, have a match preview tomorrow on How We're the Podcast, and then a reaction after the final whistle. So hopefully that will be a good one. So look out for all of that. But from us, it's bye for now.